Welcome to Train Signal. You are watching the lab setup video for Advanced Active Directory in Windows 2000. In this video, I will go over the hardware requirements that is required to set up the lab, and then I will show you how the lab is configured so that you can perform the activities that I'm going to show you and get hands-on practice. Let us first begin with the hardware requirements. You need 3 computers. Each of these computers can be Pentium 133 MHz or better. In fact, in this particular table, I have the computer component listed as the first column. The minimum, this is the absolute minimum that you need to set up this lab as the minimum requirements column. And the recommended is what I recommend so that the labs go in an efficient manner. So computers, you need 3 computers, a minimum of Pentium 1, 133 MHz. If you have Pentium 2 or better, so much the better. For RAM, you require a minimum of 128 megabytes of RAM. However, 256 or better is highly recommended. Now, of these 3 computers, we will be installing Windows 2000 Server on 2 of these computers. And a third computer will act as a client. On that client, I will be installing Windows XP. So for the client computer, about 2 gigabytes is plenty as far as the hard drive goes. And on the other 2 servers, if you have 6 gigabytes, that should be more than enough. As far as a recommendation, if you have 10 gigabytes or larger, that would be a good hard disk, simply that way because you'll be able to copy hard disk for easy access. So once again, 3 computers. 2 of those computers will be Windows 2000 servers on which you need 6 gigabyte of hard disk, and 1 computer about 2 gigabyte is fine. Now I will be installing Windows XP. If you want, you can replace Windows XP with Windows 2000 Professional, and all the labs will perform exactly in the same manner. As far as the network card goes, you need 1 on each computer. You need 1 switch, and since we have 3 computers, you'll require 3 category 5 cables to put this network together. So taking you to the picture of the network, that's what our network will look like. 3 computers. The first computer we will call DC1. The second computer we'll call DC2. And on these 2 computers, we will install Windows Server 2000. And on the third computer that we'll call Client 1, you will be installing Windows XP Professional, or optionally, you can install Windows 2000 Professional on this. So that's how the lab will look like. You require 3 Ethernet cables, each going from 1 computer to the switch. As far as the installation of the operating system goes, just install Server 2000 on these 2 computers and Windows XP on this computer using the default installation options. Do not put anything special. This is how we are going to configure our computers. On the first computer that we will call DC1 as the computer name, we will put the IP address of 200.200.200.1. This is a Class C IP address whose subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. Hence /24 over here as the shortcut notation for the subnet mask. So the first computer, computer 1, we will call it DC1. On this we will install Server 2000, and then the IP address of this computer will be 200.200.200.1. The second computer, we will call it DC2. The IP address of this computer will be 200.200.200.2. Again, /24 as the subnet mask. And on this computer also, we will install Windows Server 2000. Now, on both of these computers, if you want, you can install Service Pack 4 or higher. Okay, so I highly recommend that you install Service Pack 4 on this, just so that you have no connectivity problems. And then on the third computer, we will call this computer Client 1. And on this computer, the IP address is going to be 200.200.200.11, and the subnet mask again will be /24. On this computer, we will install Windows XP Professional or Windows 2000 Professional, and then it's a good idea to put Service Pack 2 on this. So to summarize, once again, 3 computers, 2 with server, 1 as the client, and eventually what we will do is, and this will be part of the next video that I'm going to show you, we will make the first computer DC1 as the domain controller of our domain. DC2 will be the additional domain controller of our domain. This is where the Active Directory will reside, and we will be doing a lot of replication between DC1 and DC2 in the appropriate videos. Client 1 will act as a client. All our lab experiments will assume that a user is logging in from Client 1 so that the Client 1 can get the effects of the group policy that you have set up on DC1 and or DC2. So that will be the setup. One of the biggest goals of this video is to show you in live action exactly what takes place on the user's computer as the user is logging on. So all the group policies that we will be setting up, we will actually be experiencing the results of that group policy once we log on from the client computer, and all the three screens of this computer will be captured on my recording station over here. I like to call it my recording studio, but it's more of a recording workstation. So let me introduce you to my lab over here that I have set up. This is the screen of my recording station. You can recognize it very easily by looking at the train signal logo over here. Now what I have done is I have set up 3 computers like I showed you in the network diagram: DC1, DC2, and Client 1. And I'm going to remotely access DC1, DC2, and Client 1 from my workstation over here. So what I've done is on server 2000 on DC1 and DC2, I've installed a service known as Terminal Services in the remote administration mode, and on my client computer, I have activated what is known as remote connection sharing. So by using these methods, I will be able to access the screens of those computers on my desktop. It is very important that you know exactly what steps are performed on which computer. So in order to make things clear, what I've done is the following. Every time I want you to go to DC1 and perform the following activities, what I will do is I'll tell you that let's go ahead and connect on DC1. So here we go. I'm going to connect on DC1 now, and it will start a remote desktop connection. And I have color-coded the screens to the best of my ability. Let me log into DC1. Our default password is going to be password for all user accounts. So once my connection to DC1 is made, you will notice that here's the connection to DC1. What I'm going to do is double click on this one. At all times, you'll be able to tell that I'm on DC1 or on a particular computer by looking at the following. The first thing is the title bar itself over here. Over here it clearly says that I'm on computer DC1, and here's the IP address. Also what I've done is I've renamed the computer name from my computer to DC1 so that you can clearly tell which computer I'm currently on. I'm going to minimize this screen, and now let's connect to DC2 in the same manner. So here we go. It's trying to make the connection to DC2. I'm going to log in using password as the password, and if you notice the slight change in color over here, this is a teal color denoting DC2, and you can see in the title bar also that this is DC2, and the IP address I'm using is 200.200.200.2. Okay, let's minimize this, and last but not the least is the client computer. This is running Windows XP, and here we go, distinct change in color once again, and I'm on Windows XP. At this point, all these 3 computers are with standard installations. I've just installed the operating system and the service pack, and they are part of workgroup. So I'm going to give you a little tour. Again, client 1, and here's the IP address and a distant color over here too. And you can tell it's XP by looking at the start button right over here. Now let me give you a little tour of these computers. I'm going to right click on My Network Places, Properties, and then go to TCP IP configuration of the local area connection, and then click on Properties one more time to check our TCP IP properties. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with this by now, but here's the IP address, the subnet mask. In our network, we will have just one DNS server, namely DC1, and so please put the DNS server's IP address on all the TCP IP configuration tabs like this one. So our DNS server is always going to be 200.200.200.1. So here we go. I'm done with that, and I'm going to close this connection. I'm going to minimize this connection and go back to the connection of DC1, and again show you the IP configuration over here as well. Here we go. It's configured as 200.1, and again the DNS server, which I had forgotten to enter, should be entered right now as 200.200.200.1. So that part is done as well. And then, so currently we are on DC1. I'm going to close this connection, minimize this window, and then go back to DC2, and let's check out the TCP IP configuration over here. So right click on local area connection, properties one more time, TCP IP, and this one is set up correctly. Great. Now, one of the first things you should do after these connections are made is to make sure that you can ping these computers from one to the other. So what I'm going to do is, as an example, from DC2, I'm going to open the command prompt by going to start run and type CMD. And let me just reposition my screen over here a little bit. Okay, so from DC2, let's see if I can ping successfully DC1, whose IP address is 200.200.200.1. and I'm able to do so. Now let me ping the client, which is 200.200.200.11, and I'm fine also. Okay, so we have good connectivity in our network, and we are ready to start configuring Active Directory on these computers. So once again, to summarize what we have done in this video, what we have done is I've showed you the hardware requirements and how you will set up the 3 computers with the appropriate operating systems and the appropriate TCP/IP configurations and make sure that there is connectivity in your network. Once that is done, then you will go on to the next lab in which we will actually install Active Directory on this computer known as DC1. So that should bring an end to this video. I thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in a different video in Advanced Active Directory.